The delivery truck pulls away, leaving a massive box in the center of a comfortable, slightly worn living room. Inside is a sleek, modern leather couch that cost more than a month of rent. It is a trophy of hard work. But the moment the plastic wrapping comes off and the couch sits against the wall, a quiet, invisible trap springs shut. The room that felt like home yesterday feels completely wrong today. The warm, faded area rug beneath the new leather looks painfully dingy. The reliable oak coffee table, chipped from years of use, suddenly appears cheap next to the pristine upholstery. Even the lighting casts shadows that highlight how mismatched everything has become. The couch does not elevate the room, it exposes it. The immediate solution feels logical. You return to the furniture store before the weekend is over, searching for a geometric rug that matches the sharp angles of the new couch. While browsing, a minimalist brass floor lamp catches your eye. You swipe your card for the rug, order the lamp online from the parking lot, and convince yourself these are just finishing touches. But the finishing touches never finish the room. Once the rug and lamp arrive, the pale yellow walls suddenly clash with the modern aesthetic, demanding a fresh coat of gallery white paint. Within weeks, the initial purchase of a $1,000 couch mutates into a frantic $4,000 room renovation. You find yourself trapped in a financial spiral triggered by a single piece of furniture. This relentless upgrading is not a modern accident, nor a symptom of internet-age consumerism. To understand the hidden mechanism draining your bank account, you have to look back to 18th century Paris. The architect of this financial phenomenon was not a retail executive, but a brilliant philosopher named Denis Diderot. He spent his life studying human nature, completely unaware he was about to become its most famous victim. Diderot was a man of modest means, living a quiet life surrounded by towering stacks of books. His study was a chaotic, highly functional sanctuary. It was filled with comfortable, worn-out furniture that perfectly served his daily needs as a writer. For decades, he was entirely content in this cluttered space, never giving a second thought to the social status his surroundings projected. That contentment shattered the day a wealthy friend gifted him a breathtakingly beautiful scarlet dressing gown. The garment was a masterpiece of tailoring, woven from fine, heavy fabric. Its rich, vibrant crimson color radiated a sense of absolute luxury, transforming the philosopher into a portrait of high society elegance the moment he put it on. But as Diderot sat back down in his study wearing this magnificent garment, the illusion broke. The pristine fabric of the scarlet gown sat in violent contrast to the ink-stained, dusty reality of his workspace. His trusted wooden desk suddenly looked like scrap lumber. The faded tapestries appeared pathetic, and the worn floorboards seemed to mock his new attire. The gown did not belong in the room. The initial joy of receiving the gift rapidly curdled into a deep psychological discomfort. Diderot felt acutely out of place in his own home, sensing a jarring disconnect between his new outward appearance and his humble environment. The gown possessed a quiet, demanding authority, silently insisting that the world around it rise to its level of sophistication. It was a demand for status that his current life simply could not match. Every time he entered his study, the clash between the elegant scarlet fabric and the poverty of his surroundings felt like a personal failure. To resolve this mental friction, Diderot realized he could not simply enjoy the gown, he had to build a world that deserved it. He began a systematic, ruinous campaign of replacement. The comfortable old straw chair that had supported him for years was thrown out, replaced by a luxurious leather armchair. His simple, functional wooden desk was hauled away to make room for an expensive, highly polished writing table. The practical tools of his trade were no longer enough. They had to be beautiful. The purge continued relentlessly across the entire room. He purchased an elegant, ornate mirror to hang on the wall, ensuring the space reflected the grandeur of his new aesthetic. He swapped his simple wooden bookshelves for intricately carved cabinetry. Each new item was purchased solely to harmonize with the commanding presence of the scarlet garment. When the spending spree finally exhausted itself, the chaotic, comfortable sanctuary of his youth was entirely gone. In its place stood a cold, immaculate room that felt utterly foreign. Diderot found himself buried in debt, surrounded by expensive objects that offered him no real comfort, realizing too late that his pursuit of aesthetic harmony had destroyed his financial peace. Sitting in his newly impoverished elegance, he documented this destructive psychological spiral in a famous essay titled "Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown." He confessed a chilling realization about the nature of consumerism. He was the master of his old, worn-out robe, but he had become the helpless slave of the new one. The beautiful possession had mutated into a tyrant. What happened in that 18th century study is not a historical quirk. It is the defining blueprint for a psychological trap we now call the Diderot Effect. This phenomenon operates as a silent, two-part mechanism running in the background of your financial life. First, it dictates that the goods purchased by consumers naturally align with their established sense of identity. Your belongings form a cohesive ecosystem reflecting who you believe you are. The second part of the mechanism triggers the trap. When you introduce a new possession that deviates from this identity, it acts like a virus in the system. The new item does not just sit quietly among your older belongings. It actively highlights their flaws, creating an uncomfortable contrast that demands immediate correction. The cycle of overspending begins the moment that single upgraded object crosses your threshold. You might think you are immune because you do not wear scarlet dressing gowns, but the human brain has not fundamentally changed since the 1700s. We are still hardwired for pattern recognition and aesthetic harmony. When things look like they belong together, our minds feel at ease. When they clash, our minds register a problem that must be solved. This deep-seated need for visual and social consistency makes us highly susceptible to this specific type of lifestyle creep. Today, consumer psychology is not just an academic theory studied in universities. It is a highly weaponized science applied to every screen you scroll and every store you walk into. The trap is no longer accidental. To understand how this drains your bank account, you must look at a concept called identity clustering. Our brains naturally group objects together into neat, predictable packages. A specific brand of luxury car implies a specific type of expensive watch, which suggests a specific neighborhood. We do not evaluate items individually. We evaluate them as parts of a complete package. When you make a purchase that falls outside your current cluster, you shatter that internal consistency. If you drive an old sedan but buy a high-end designer jacket, the jacket does not elevate the car. Instead, it makes the car feel inadequate. This creates a powerful psychological tension. Your brain cannot tolerate the mismatch, demanding you spend whatever it takes to restore the balance. The cognitive process unfolds in a predictable step-by-step sequence. You bring home the new, premium item and place it in your living space. Almost instantly, your brain scans the surrounding environment and flags the older items as flawed. The perfectly fine sofa suddenly looks shabby next to the new television. The old shoes look scuffed beneath the new suit. This visual dissonance triggers a dopamine-driven urge to replace the offending items. You are not buying a new sofa because you need a place to sit. You are buying it to stop the mental itch caused by the mismatch. Your brain rewards you with a temporary hit of satisfaction for restoring the visual equilibrium. But this relief is a mirage, setting the stage for a deeper financial drain. This relentless pursuit of harmony leads directly into the trap of hedonic adaptation. You finally finish upgrading the room, matching every accessory to the new standard. But the thrill of that perfectly matched environment quickly fades into a new, boring, normal baseline. The elevated standard simply becomes your everyday reality, stripping away the joy you thought the purchases would bring. You find yourself feeling no happier than you did before you bought the very first item. The psychological boost evaporates, but the financial damage remains permanent. Your savings have been depleted to fund an illusion of completeness. You traded your hard-earned wealth just to get back to an emotional baseline of zero. Step into any modern retail environment, and you will see this psychological mechanism physically built into the walls. Walk through a sprawling furniture showroom or a high-end fashion boutique. You will never see a chair sitting alone on a bare floor, or a shirt hanging on a solitary rack. The architecture of modern retail design is built entirely around context and association. Items are displayed in perfectly curated, fully furnished rooms, or as complete outfits on stylized mannequins. The lighting, the rugs, the accessories, and the wall colors are meticulously chosen to create a flawless, unified aesthetic. They are not selling you a dining table. They are selling you the entire dining experience, planting the seed that the table alone will never be enough. This is how modern retail actively exploits the Diderot Effect. Brands intentionally weaponize your biological need for consistency. They design products that only look correct or function perfectly when paired with other items from their specific ecosystem. The aesthetic language of the brand is carefully engineered so that mixing their product with a competitor's product feels visually wrong. The ultimate goal of this strategy is to make the consumer feel perpetually incomplete. If you only own one piece of the collection, the brand ensures you feel a lingering sense of lack every time you look at it. They turn your own psychological desire for order against you, transforming an innocent purchase into a binding contract to buy the rest of the catalog. You walk into a store simply to replace a smartphone with a cracked screen, and you walk out with the newest model. It feels like a single, contained transaction. But the moment you unbox it, the trap springs. The new phone does not use your old charging cable. Your bedside table, your car, and your desk at work all suddenly require brand new hardware just to keep this single device alive. The cascade continues. The new phone lacks a traditional headphone jack, rendering your reliable wired headphones useless. You are forced to buy the brand's matching wireless earbuds. Once those are synced, the brand's fitness smartwatch integrates flawlessly with both, offering an irresistible digital experience. You did not set out to buy an entire suite of wearable technology. You just wanted a phone that worked, but the ecosystem forced a total digital renovation. The emotional toll of this continuous upgrading is heavy and quiet. You earn a good salary. You might even receive regular promotions. Yet, at the end of every month, a lingering sense of anxiety settles in your chest. You stare at your bank statement and wonder where the money went. The numbers simply do not seem to align with the hard work you put in every single day. Instead of feeling empowered by your purchases, you begin to feel owned by them. Modern devices and an upgraded lifestyle demand constant maintenance, expensive subscriptions, and eventual replacement. The things you bought to make life easier have become a silent boss, directing your labor and draining your resources. You are working tirelessly just to serve the ecosystem. This psychological urge for consistency does not just clutter your home, it actively hollows out your entire financial future. The step from a harmless aesthetic preference to a permanent state of financial fragility is much shorter than you think. We have to look past the emotional burden and examine the hard mathematical reality of this cycle of overspending. This is the exact mechanism that drives lifestyle creep, the silent killer of generational wealth. It is the primary reason why millions of high-earning professionals are sitting on zero-balance savings accounts. The urge to match your surroundings transforms every boost in income into a new baseline of mandatory spending, ensuring you never actually get ahead of the curve. The financial mathematics of the Diderot Effect are brutal. When you secure a 10% increase in your income, logic suggests you should have more money left to save. But in reality, that 10% bump often leads to a 20% increase in your overall spending. The new income triggers an anchor purchase, like a slightly larger apartment, which resets the standard for everything else. That single anchor purchase dictates the hidden cost of all subsequent matching purchases. A premium car requires premium insurance, high-end tires, and specialized maintenance. A larger apartment demands more furniture, higher utility bills, and upscale decor just to fill the empty space. The initial upgrade actively destroys your wealth by creating a new, exponentially higher cost of living. The deepest systemic consequence of this cycle is the complete loss of your financial autonomy. You are no longer making independent choices about where your money goes. The objects themselves begin dictating the household budget. The aesthetic demands of your possessions take absolute priority over your investments, your retirement planning, and your ultimate freedom. Your entire financial trajectory is hijacked by the silent demands of the things you own. You cannot save capital to start a business or take a calculated risk on a new career. The monthly cost of maintaining your perfectly matched lifestyle requires your continuous, uninterrupted labor. The objects have successfully locked you into a beautiful financial cage of your own making. Eventually, a powerful moment of clarity arrives. You stand in the middle of your perfectly matched expensive home, surrounded by the flawless ecosystem of devices and high-end furniture. And instead of feeling successful, you feel entirely trapped. You realize you are caught in an endless cycle of debt and obligation, running to exhaustion on a treadmill that only speeds up. Achieving the perfect aesthetic comes with a hollow, sinking feeling. The visual harmony of your living room cannot mask the genuine financial panic keeping you awake at night. You traded your peace of mind for a carefully curated image. The realization that the image is worthless compared to your actual freedom is a devastating psychological blow. Escaping this cycle requires learning exactly how to identify a trigger purchase before you actually make it. A trigger purchase is the single, highly visible item that threatens to disrupt your current standard of living. It is the shiny new anchor that will inevitably demand a massive fleet of matching accessories just to justify its presence in your life. These items share specific characteristics. They are highly visible, status-oriented, and represent a significant, sudden deviation from your current baseline lifestyle. Whether it is a luxury watch, a designer handbag, or a high-performance vehicle, the trigger purchase is never just one transaction. It is the first domino in a very expensive chain reaction. Breaking the chain reaction demands a deliberate disruption of your buying habits. You must build conscious friction into every transaction following a major upgrade. When you bring home a pristine new television, lock your wallet away for exactly 30 days. This mandatory wait forces the initial rush to fade, allowing logic to regain control. The next step is actively sabotaging the need for visual harmony. You intentionally mix aesthetics in your physical space to break the psychological tension demanding perfection. Placing an older rug next to a modern table trains your mind to tolerate mismatch. This destroys the invisible anchor, proving your environment can function without draining your accounts. The ultimate result of mastering this friction is a complete restructuring of personal capital. Instead of funneling excess income into retail ecosystems, individuals redirect funds into wealth-building assets. Studies of high-net-worth households reveal a surprising tolerance for outdated technology, proving true financial stability requires rejecting constant visual upgrades. This shift starves the retail models built on hedonic adaptation. When consumers stop chasing the endless horizon of matching goods, the strategy of planned aesthetic obsolescence loses its power. The durable consequence is a quiet rebellion where consumers reclaim their financial trajectory, transforming money into a shield for independence. The human aftermath of this realization is felt deeply within families who spent decades buried under consumer debt. Parents stepping off the endless treadmill of upgrades discover they can afford what actually matters. The crushing pressure to maintain appearances vanishes, replaced by a profound, life-altering sense of relief. This liberation cascades to the next generation, altering how children perceive a dollar. When a family stops treating the mall as a destination for self-worth, they break a generational curse of financial anxiety. The aftermath is a life where time is spent on shared experiences rather than fragile illusions. The broader cultural aftershock becomes visible in the shifting landscape of modern status symbols. By 2023, consumer sentiment reports began showing a rising trend of intentional underconsumption. The old assumption that a perfectly coordinated lifestyle equals success is fracturing as people wake up to the reality of the trap. This awakening brings a heavy emotional weight for those who spent their prime earning years feeding the retail machine. Looking back at thousands of dollars wasted on matching accessories induces bitter regret. Yet this painful clarity is the necessary shock required to survive an economy built on endless, manufactured desire. A lingering question remains that no financial record can fully answer. As retail environments become increasingly digital and virtual identities demand their own matching upgrades, will a 30-day wait be enough? The algorithms tracking our clicks are evolving much faster than our natural psychological defenses against the upgrade cycle. Ultimately, the true cost of overspending is found in the quiet moments alone in a perfectly furnished room. It is the haunting image of a man sitting in a beautiful scarlet dressing gown, realizing too late that he traded his future freedom for things he never truly needed.